In this chapter, I'm going to talk to you about the Enterprise Health Management Platform, a project on which I led UI design while working with Accenture. Our day-to-day tasks were essentially maintaining the old platform and do small enhancements on it. It pretty much looked like what you're seeing on screen now. These are renders that the designers delivered, and believe me, the execution wasn't as refined as these. There were many opportunities to work on. Amongst those, there was the recurring comment from the practitioners that the application felt too heavy on the eyes, and that their vision got tired after an entire day of working with it. Many designers had tried to come up with a new visual treatment for this application, but still couldn't fill the gap that the customer was expecting to be filled. This is the moment when I was tasked with the responsibility of leading the redesign of it. The first thing that we did was conduct a heuristic evaluation for the platform. That, with the lead of the client on the necessity of a workspace for the practitioners, ended up in our first deliverables. The main request for the dashboard was that the staff could actually get a glimpse of how their day looked like. This is the first proposal that we logged. The screen was divided in a global navigation area up top that persists throughout the whole experience. Then, the practitioner is identified so that they can make sure it's their session they're working on. At the left side, you can see all the patients that are being seen on that day. In the main area, you have that day's schedule, the tasks that you're going to be doing that day, and notifications that you have to take care of. Any of these widgets can be expanded in order to see a detailed version of it. For example, the schedule one allows you to view the information for the whole week. This behavior repeats for each one of these. The dashboard has also the capability of filtering the whole information by patient. So, for example, if we click on John Doe, you see that the schedule, the tasks, and the notifications highlight the information relative to him, while the rest of the patients get dimmed. You may ask yourself, well, why not just remove the other information? And the answer revolves around this being medical software. And there's a possibility that if you hide the other information, the users would not be aware of such filtering and think that the schedule is shorter than it actually is, and the tasks are less than they really are, and that there are less notifications than the ones available. This, of course, is unacceptable. Another relevant change that was made was the patient search. On previous iterations, the patient search was seen as a destination. The correction we made was to make the patient search feel like the means to an end, which is actually what it should be. So it floats at the top of the screen you're at instead of sending you to another place. Within the search screen, there are three main divisions. The first one is where you filter what place you want to search. The current site, other clinics, wards, and nationwide search. You have your recent patients list and quick access to the ones you see frequently. You may have realized that on these lists, we have some patients that are marked as sensitive and there are others that are not. This is because some patient records are protected. By accessing those, there will be a log on the system and a security officer will contact the practitioner for justification. For other patients, it's just about clicking on their info and confirming the selection to get the full profile. Once at the chart, the left side of the screen shows the demographics, postings, and provider information. The toolbar up top shows you information that has to be present at all times, no matter what. You can change the workspace by selecting from this list. There is also the possibility to create a custom workspace. It's a matter of selecting the available widgets that you want to have within it. On the right side of the screen, you can pop out an overlay that shows notes, medication labs, and other information associated to the patient. The main area can be structured to show data related to patient conditions. This one, for example, shows the information best suited for hyperlipidemia. This means high cholesterol. It is important on the main view to have the timeline of the care that has been given to a patient. We introduced color coding on it to diversify and highlight different occurrences, such as a simple consult or hospital admissions. By now, you have realized that these views are particularly dense. But the practitioners interviewed made us understand that in a scenario where you have to make quick decisions based on the available information, say an emergency situation, it is better for them to have more data available at site as their hands would be most likely occupied with the patient and they would be unable to interact with the computer. On the vitals and lab results, there is a unique type of graphic. This is actually the representation of a trend. It shows you what the current state of the vital is and what was it on your last visit. This sums up my first iteration on the design. At this point, Accenture started the recompete for the contract. The VA received this proposal very well, but there were a few changes that they wanted to see. There was still the idea that the interface was somewhat heavy on the eyes, and there were features that they wanted to incorporate to make their day-to-day easier. In an effort to shine for that recompete, we tackled much of the issues that they raised. Here we see the new iteration that was delivered, and had many things to speed up your way through the system. Patient selection, recent patients, and CPRS list made their way to the main screen so that could be accessed rapidly when logging in. System tasks and clinical tasks gain prime real estate, as those are the activities that the practitioner has to deal with day by day. The activities widget represents the status of the patients that are currently on site. This view helps the practitioner determine who should be seen next, depending on the stage of the visit. There's the shortcuts area on the right side where quick access to other platforms is provided. Patient search remained pretty much the same in terms of functionality, but there were changes made to the information architecture and hierarchy of the elements to make a clear distinction between site filters and patient CTAs. Going into the patient chart, the first thing that is somewhat different is the area of the postings, where we add a visual cue of how important those can be. For example, within crisis notes, there could be information that is relevant for the security of all parties involved. Things such as wanderer patients or even violent ones are shown here. This is why a color representing the severity of the posting was added. By clicking on the date up top, a date range picker will be displayed, which will narrow down the information to the range chosen. Most of the characteristics were kept, but simply refined in the visual aspect. On the right sidebar, we can find the space to take notes for the visit. There is also the possibility to check on previous ones to be able to compare and give context to the current one. Something that was changed is the way to switch between the workspaces, as the most important ones are shown at first glance up in the top bar. Still, those that do not fit can be reached by clicking on the More element at the end of it. This pretty much sums up all of the work I delivered for the VA. There were many highlights along the way, but the one I cherish the most is to hear a full audience of VA stakeholders applaud when we finish presenting this project. I feel very proud whenever I say that this effort helped Accenture to win a contract for almost $300 million. All the effort poured on it sure paid off.